welcome back everybody. Today we're off here with Striker. Or Strider. Why do you say Striker? Anyway, so we did the autism myths. Now, the biggest anxiety and depression myths busted. So yeah, I think we actually hit a new series for him. Busted series. Who knows? Anywho, so let's see the biggest lies about anxiety and depression. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Here we go.
Society normally understands that physical challenges require a little extra consideration. For example, if someone's in crutches or a wheelchair, we normally give them a little extra time to get in and out of the car. But if someone can't see a person's challenges, such as generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, or depression, some of society considers these mental health challenges to suddenly just not exist, and that people just need to try harder? I know, it's stupid. But sadly, these damaging stigmas and myths can lead to some people blaming themselves and not seeking treatment. Depression and generalized anxiety can have some particularly damaging myths. So let's debunk these myths. To debunk them, I'll be quoting the American Psychiatric Association and various doctors, represented by this lady.
Hi, ma'am.
Hey, honey. So, full disclosure, I have generalized anxiety disorder and I've also had depression in the past, so this topic is close to my heart. And I'll do my best to treat this topic with the respect and care it deserves. And if you or someone you know is feeling particularly vulnerable, I've added warm lines and hotlines in the description. Like 988 and Australia's Lifeline. Also, sorry about the terrible camera quality. My regular camera broke and cameras are expensive, so I filmed this on my smartphone. With that said, let's bust some myths.
It happens.
For our first myth we have, depression is just feeling sad? This myth was first mentioned on my Blue Sky, and sadly, I've heard it before as well. It's important to know that depression is not a part of normal everyday life. I mean, everyone has a bad day from time to time, of course, but depression is a very real psychological condition that can even have physical effects on the brain, such as a reduction in the hippocampus size, which is vital for learning and memory. But studies do show that new treatments can help stop or reverse these changes, such as medication, which can help the brain form new connections and lower inflammation, or cognitive behavioral therapy, which can promote neuroplasticity. But my point is that far from just feeling sad, a person with depression might have memory problems, trouble thinking clearly, guilt or hopelessness, no motivation, and even sleeping problems.
She doesn't look sad. I don't see any tears in her eyes.
It's not that kind of sad.
What makes it tough is, unlike someone on crutches, people can't see on the outside what a person with depression is going through. For example, in the SpongeBob episode Jellyfishing, when Squidward is in a wheelchair, SpongeBob and Patrick can clearly see Squidward could use an extra hand, as terrible as they are at giving that hand. But the rest of the time, even though Squidward is almost always unmotivated and miserable, it doesn't occur to SpongeBob that maybe Squidward is struggling with mild depression. And that really doesn't change until the episode Are You Happy Now?, when Squidward gets major depression and won't leave the house. It's only then that SpongeBob realizes, oh crap, Squidward's in trouble, I've got to try and help. In that episode, Squidward isn't just sad. He can't feel any emotion. He's unresponsive, he doesn't leave the house, and he realizes he doesn't get happiness from any of his memories. So no, depression isn't just sadness. It's a very real, but very treatable psychological condition. Depression can be an overwhelming oppressiveness that can hang over people, and it doesn't magically fix itself by ignoring it. Hey Nin, can you tell us some of the signs of depression?
You got any signs?
Certainly. Feeling angry or guilty, fatigue, losing interest in favourite hobbies, or even loss of interest in pleasurable activities. Other symptoms include not being able to remember details, headaches, changes in appetite, and feeling worthless or guilty.
So the symptoms aren't just feeling sad then?
No, that's nonsense. It's utter crap. A person can feel sad while depressed, but depression is much more complicated than that.
Oh, hey Mom.
Oh, hi Josh. You should come visit me soon.
Yeah, I know, I should. I've just been busy. I will. The next myth is anxiety disorder is just overreacting and not an actual illness.
I'm reacting? Seriously?
Every word of what you just said was wrong.
This myth was also recommended by my Blue Sky, and it's one of the most irritating myths to me. as it's just blaming the victim and pretending their mental challenges don't exist. Feeling stressed or anxious in small doses is a very common experience, and it can be even helpful. Work, struggling with finances, relationships, there's plenty of normal experiences that make us stressed, and it can alert us to danger and help us pay attention.
And it can motivate us to action. Anxiety can drive us forward.
Yeah, exactly. When I see a brown death adder in the mountains, my anxiety motivates me to run in the opposite direction very quickly. But anxiety can go well beyond the general worry of day-to-day life. Anxiety can become a legitimate, diagnosable condition. A doctor or psychologist may diagnose generalized anxiety disorder, phobias, or social anxiety disorder when that fear or worry becomes excessive and starts to interfere with everyday life, particularly for weeks or months. When it's going on that long, that's when it's becoming a bigger concern, or when we start completely avoiding normal situations that might trigger or worsen our anxiety. An example of this extreme avoidance is in the SpongeBob episode, I Had an Accident. SpongeBob gets in an accident while sandboarding and breaks his derriere. But even after his rear end heals, he doesn't just want to be more careful. SpongeBob goes way overboard and refuses to ever leave his house ever again. As you can guess, this level of anxiety interferes with SpongeBob's daily life. And by avoiding his fears this much, it hurts his job performance at the Krusty Krab, his boating schoolwork, and of course his friends Patrick and Sandy. According to the APA,
nearly 30% of all adults experience generalized anxiety disorder at some point in their lives. In order to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, the fear must be out of proportion to the situation and hinder the ability to function normally.
And yeah, it's safe to
I guess also if you want to compare it to like a movie, take a Final Destination away. Like, I'm pretty sure people who watch that would be like, oh my god, everything will kill me. Like, then again, I mean, think about it. Like, basically everything in that franchise would, do that. But odds are pretty low that it could happen. Remember, they're exaggerated to, for the shock value. I mean, sure, it could happen, but think about, like, the odds. I mean, you're pretty more likely to get struck by lightning than whatever happens in the franchise, I mean, as long as you're careful and you just take the time to, remember that, hey, life's gonna be full of dangers, so don't overthink it, I guess. I don't know. Not sure that's the right way to think about it, but
to say SpongeBob was definitely hindered from functioning normally. In reality, SpongeBob might have benefited from also trying therapy rather than just facing down a gorilla to save his friends. Though I'm glad it worked out for him, according to the DSM-5.
Anxiety symptoms can include excessive worry, a racing heart, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, muscle aches, the mind racing and randomly going blank, being irritable, and sleep disturbances.
Oh, I definitely get the sleep disturbances. I relate so much to that SpongeBob episode where he can't sleep in Spongiac.
What if I don't get to sleep at all?
Oh yes, I get it too. Sleep problems run in the family.
Anyway, when these anxiety symptoms are more common than not for weeks or months on end, or they're making someone avoid normal daily activities, well, that's certainly not overreacting, and it may be worth someone talking to a professional about it, or at least someone they trust. Help is available. Our next myth is depression is a sign of weakness? Or depressed people just need to try harder, or they're seeking attention. What? What does that even mean? No, it's not a sign of quote-unquote weakness. Depression is not a choice, and it should always be taken seriously. I think the Nationwide Children's Hospital put it quite well.
People can't just snap out of depression any more than someone with diabetes can.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if someone said diabetes is a sign of weakness. You'd be like, what are you talking about? On my blue sky, Colby Arla was told the myth that it was a quote-unquote phase they'll get over. And Capricornus heard that myth that depression is a choice. While depression can certainly be temporary, depression is not a quote-unquote phase, and people don't choose to have it. Fireliz heard this myth as well, so it seems quite common. Who the hell would choose to have depression anyway? Yeah, let's have that state where we feel no emotion whatsoever and struggle to feel any happiness in our day-to-day lives. That just sounds like such a great choice. Ask anyone who's had it. Depression is a horrible place to be. And talking about that depression will certainly not somehow make it worse. That was a myth that popped up too, that somehow talking about depression makes it worse. I know, that was a weird one. I'm really sorry if you've ever been told these myths. The Nationwide Children's Hospital had a lot to say about these myths in particular.
Sadly, in families and communities, it's a common myth that depression is a character flaw and should be hidden away from the public eye. Depression is not a problem to be solved, but an illness to be treated. People should be able to express their emotional pain and not be told to be silent.
I think one of the most memorable examples of silencing depression actually comes from The Simpsons. Way back in season 1 episode, Moaning Lisa. When Lisa's feeling empty and miserable, Marge originally tells her to basically suck it up so people will like her, because that's what she was taught.
Take all your bad feelings and push them down, and then you'll fit in, and you'll be invited to parties.
But then she stops herself repeating the same bad parenting she received. Instead, she says this.
Lisa, I apologise. You want to be sad, honey? Be sad. From now on, I'll do the smiling for both of us.
Basically, if you feel crappy, you're welcome to feel crappy. I think what's important is that people talk about it. There are a ton of effective treatments for depression, but it is invisible to many people. So we generally have to speak up to someone we trust. This brings me to a similar myth, and one that I've sadly heard a few times.
Here we go.
Myth. If a person has everything, food, shelter, etc., they somehow can't be depressed? This one's a myth because depression isn't based on circumstance. On my blue sky, Axel was told others have it worse, therefore they shouldn't be depressed. But as the APA says, depression has a genetic and biological basis too. Just because you have food and shelter and your life circumstances are okay, that doesn't mean you can't be depressed. Just because someone out there has it worse, that doesn't somehow invalidate your depression. As Dr. Sime on Psych Central said,
depression can affect anyone, no matter their income or financial success.
For example, take Jim Carrey, aka Dr. Robotnik from the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. He's a highly successful world-famous actor, beloved by millions around the world. But at the same time, Jim Carrey's openly admitted to struggling with depression. Or Robin Williams, he struggled deeply with depression for years. Even Lady Gaga has openly discussed her battles with depression. In fact, she created the Born This Way Foundation specifically for other people battling with depression. And obviously, she's definitely got food and shelter, and she's beloved by many people. Not so much for her Simpsons appearance, but for her music and the kindness she teaches. I like Lady Gaga, I just don't like that episode, it's really bad. Anyway, the singer Katy Perry has struggled with depression as well. Kristen Bell has battled with depression as well, and she's the voice of Anna from Frozen, and a fellow humanist. So yes, if world-famous millionaire singers and actors beloved around the world can have depression, you can absolutely still be depressed even with food and shelter. No one is not allowed to have depression because of their circumstance. That's just stupid. Next up is an anxiety myth. People with anxiety should avoid anxious situations. Again, a myth mentioned on my blue sky. As we saw with SpongeBob in the episode, I Had an Accident, Spongy couldn't just avoid any danger to his butt for his whole life by staying inside forever. The risk of his behind being hurt was making him anxious, so he had to eventually expose himself to his anxieties. In this case, a gorilla. In reality, stress is unavoidable. But just like SpongeBob did, people can learn to cope with stressful situations more effectively. An anxious person doesn't have to go looking for stressful situations, but they will happen. But we can be ready for stress with good coping strategies.
A lot of the anxiety can be in our heads. So even if SpongeBob avoids all danger and stays at home, he might still get anxious about what happens to his derriere tomorrow. So even being at home, he still can't escape anxiety about his buttocks.
Yeah, his ass.
Well, he might as well be outside with his friends then. Spongy can obviously be careful about avoiding hard impacts on his rear end, but he can't just avoid anxious situations altogether. I mean, he works in the Krusty Krab, a busy fast food restaurant. If you've worked in fast food or know someone who has, you probably know it can be a very stressful job. In my own case, when I run in the mountains, I used to get very anxious about being bitten by one of the most venomous snakes in the world, the death adder. But when I think about it, I know 2 to 3 of only 26 million people in Australia are killed by snakes per year. And if I don't go to the mountains, I miss out on my favorite hobby in the world, running in the forest. The world isn't made of Nerf. It has sharp edges and you will get cut, but not too deeply if you're careful. Not too careful, just careful enough, so don't stop living. Our next myth is that medication is a quote-unquote easy fix. Oh, really? Come on. I don't think there's anything easy about depression, yet alone a quote-unquote easy fix. If we had an easy fix, we'd just all take it. No one likes depression. And why is it when medical professionals find carefully tested medication with years of empirical evidence that can greatly help people suffering crippling anxiety, or just help people with depression to occasionally have a pleasant moment in their day, when we find this, victims get told it's a cop-out. I'm sorry, I know I'm ranting. This is such a destructive myth. Medication is typically taken in combination with therapy. Neither therapy nor medication are going to be magic bullets or easy fixes. With or without medication, it takes hard work from a person to work through anxiety and depression. And I assure you, easy is not an adjective you use for anxiety or depression. It's absolutely doable that you can work through either, but easy is definitely the wrong word. My source, if you want one, for depression not being an easy fix is Dr. Serrani, a psychology professor at Adelphi University. And while we're on the subject of medication, let's clear up another big myth. Medication is quote-unquote happy pills. What a stupid word. I hate this myth. The people spreading this myth clearly don't understand how serotonin reuptake inhibitors work. According to psychology professor and Dr. Serrani,
antidepressants are not quote-unquote happy pills. Unlike drugs like amphetamines, they don't induce euphoria. They simply reduce the symptoms of depression. The goal is simply to improve your well-being.
For some people, medication...
I guess if you want to put it in a way, think of it as depression, or at least the pills, are more to help you just be like, okay, we're going to help you by lowering the depression enough to hopefully make you take that first step. You know? Like, remember, it's only going to work if you allow it to work. Again, that's just how I see it, but anyway.
Can be life-changing. It can ease their anxious reactions just enough where they can get out of bed or leave the house. It can help them live a healthier life. It can allow them to enjoy their hobbies again. It can help them spend time with their friends again without it being exhausting. Medication can basically turn the anxiety in your mind down from a deafening roar to one where someone can actually hear what's going on outside their head. It can help give a person clarity of mind so they can deal with their daily challenges better. Unfortunately, the next medication myth is also really destructive. Myth: medication changes someone's personality. But don't know how that works. Medication can't change your personality. I don't know many things in life that can, according to Dr. Serrani.
Antidepressants cannot change who you are. Your personality always remains intact. Medications ease depressive symptoms. This can improve your thinking, judgment, and reasoning. This can make it more productive for you to problem solve and address life issues.
One of the most damaging myths some people believe is that our personal anxiety or depression is somehow part of who we are. It's just sort of assumed by some people, but I disagree so strongly with this. After living with a mental challenge for a long time, you can start to think that mental challenge is you. But in reality, you are not your mental illness. Right. In fact, I personally believe someone is less themselves when they're constantly clouded by anxious thoughts, or they can't find any motivation. I think the real you is the you not constantly weighed down by symptoms of depression or anxiety. I find it a hard thing to explain. But without medication, someone with depression or heavy anxiety might have strong reactions of fear to their thoughts, to the point where this fear or anxiety might stop them living normally. With medication, the same person will still absolutely have those same thoughts they had before. Medication can't magically make a person ignore their problems. But even though they're still having those thoughts, their fear of those thoughts might not be so intense that it stops them living a normal life. Instead, they can better acknowledge those thoughts and better move on with their day. And jeebus, what's wrong with that? If we had a quick fix, that'd be a good thing. Who cares? Just get rid of the depression or anxiety. You don't need some special narrative story for it. Medication can't make someone forget their problems, but it can help give someone the clarity of thought to better manage those problems. Our next anxiety myth is that social anxiety is the same as being shy. Nope,
Really?
completely not true. Being shy or introverted is a personality trait, while social anxiety is a disorder. That being said, it's certainly possible for a person to be both socially introverted and have social anxiety. According to the National Institute of Mental Health,
Social anxiety disorder is an intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by others. For some people, this fear or embarrassment may get in the way of going to work, attending school, or doing everyday things.
being shy is not enjoying being the center of attention or getting discomfort from other people. Particularly strangers. You know, strangers. Strange people like me. Anyway, this next myth applies to both anxiety and depression. The myth is that therapy isn't for everyone. This is perhaps my most subjective myth, as not everyone responds the same to therapy, and some people really struggle to find a therapist that works for them. But it is still a damaging myth, as it stops some people from even trying to seek treatment at all. I find therapy's not for me to be a more casual throwaway line. I've even seen it in cartoons like Rick and Morty.
Because I don't respect therapy. I think it's helped a lot of people get comfortable and stop panicking.
Rick felt therapy wasn't for him, even though he's been shown to have severe symptoms of depression at times. But in reality, whether or not you have depression or you're just going through something difficult, therapy is something anyone and everyone can have. Unity Point Health briefly discussed this topic.
Therapy is for anyone. Just because someone's having mental health issues doesn't mean they're crazy. Even if you just want to bounce ideas off someone who won't judge you, you can seek help beyond pastoral care without stigma.
Like I said before, not saying therapy's a magic bullet, obviously, just as medication isn't a magic bullet. But therapy is always worth a shot when someone's struggling. Most college campuses actually offer free counseling, and for non-students there are cheaper services out there. And by the way, in later seasons, Rick does eventually try therapy with Dr. Wong.
You like it when people think you're cool?
You're extra analytical today. Looking to remodel your kitchen?
And now we come to such a...
Yeah, honestly, it does make sense. You know? I mean, look, sure. No one's gonna magically click in therapy. It's not gonna happen just like in one session and bada boom, bada bing. But if you ask me, it's just, you know, slow progress. Think of it like that, you know? The first step, you know, more steps you take, the closer you get to, you know, figuring out. At least, like I said, that's how I see it, but anyway.
Serious destructive myth, I'm not even gonna juggle. This one's just so stupid, I hate it. Myth, depression is just self-pity or laziness. Oh,
for God's sake, who comes up with this rot?
Oh, I know. It breaks my heart when I've heard people are told this. As I said earlier, depression is a very serious medical condition. According to Dr. Begum,
depression is the top cause of disability in American adults and should be taken seriously. We can see biological evidence of the illness in genetics, hormones, nerve cells, and brain functioning.
while I do like that our culture admires mental toughness, I do not like how quickly it labels anyone who struggles as a whiner. Similar to anxiety, people can't just will their illness to go away. Look at an MRI and we can see the changes in the brain that depression causes. And as I said, we wouldn't call someone's diabetes self-pity or laziness. Why is it somehow culturally okay with depression or anxiety disorder? But both depression and generalized anxiety do normally improve with treatment. But this stupid myth really discourages people from seeking out help and just blames the victims. It's an incredibly wrong myth. Moving on. And finally, the myth, breathing into a paper bag is helpful for calming you down.
You can breathe in a bag. Just breathe in a bag.
That's silly. Who actually asked this?
Well, no one.
And who even carries a paper bag for this?
Well, maybe they're shopping with reusable bags? Look, I don't know, but I've seen Lisa do it in the episode Lisa's Rival.
Are you hyperventilating?
Hyperventilating is basically overbreathing, which can lead to dizziness and shortness of breath.
I'm hyperventilating. Does anybody have a giant paper bag.
Some people hyperventilate due to stress or anxiety attacks. Lisa was panicking about Allison matching her intelligence, so she was hyperventilating. But how exactly would breathing into a paper bag calm you down?
Well, what if they have a nice smelling lunch in there? Maybe their lunch's smell calms them down.
I just like to smell my lunch.
I mean, I guess, but assuming people aren't just smelling their lunch, does breathing into a bag actually prevent hyperventilation?
According to some doctors, it can help with hyperventilation in some select cases. It should not be done for more than 7 breaths, or if you have a heart or lung condition.
In general, doctors don't recommend this technique and recommend leaving it to TV writers. A better way to calm down might be the 3-3-3 technique. This is what you do. What are 3 things you can see? Can you see your desk, your chair? Do you have a controller? Then, identify 3 things you can hear. Can you hear distant traffic, maybe a fan running? Finally, what are 3 things you can touch? How does your desk feel? Grainy? How does your headset or computer feel? A bit bumpy? Boom, done. Easy, right? 3-3-3. Or just some slow, deep breaths like Steve demonstrates here in Blue's Clues.
I stopped, took a deep breath, and now I can think.
Multiple deep breaths like this can help even more. And if you've heard other myths, or you'd like to share some of your own mental health challenges, feel free to leave your own thoughts in the comments below. I'll do my best to make sure this is a safe space for you. Thanks for watching, and whether I see you next time or not, I'll be back. Hopefully with a better camera than my smartphone. And thanks to my patron bot.
Yeah, well, let's just hope you get it. Yeah, jeez, I mean, hearing those myths, I'm like, what kind of quack doctors were spreading these myths? Like, what? Like, okay, I'm not even a doctor, but even I know that's bullshit. You know? I know that's harsh, but come on. Really? Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.